Welcome back to another episode of EpicEarth. EpicEarth is a podcast for those curious about the STEM fields and the awesome, quirky, and fun experiences and research that is taking place right now. This is episode number 12, the Environmental Sustainability Ninja. So sit back, relax, enjoy the ride as we take another journey around this epic Earth.
How are elements distributed in a planetary body?
What are our hopes? What are our dreams? What do we want to accomplish? And how do we accomplish it?
We can have all the science in the world, but if it's not translated, how is that helpful?
Welcome to another episode of EpicEarth. I'm Ashley Bosa, and with me I have my co-host, Brian Rosenblatt.
Howdy.
And today we have a very special guest with us all the way from California. Her name is Lauren Lynam. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
We're doing great. Thanks for joining us today.
Doing epic.
Of course.
We're doing epic, yeah. Let's try to get that in there. So Lauren just recently graduated from Chapman University this past December. Is that correct, Lauren?
Yes, I did, with a double major in environmental science and policy and economics, and a certificate in applied statistical analysis. So definitely was a lot, but it was really great.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that sounds like a mouthful of
yeah. I always stumble on all of those words every time I try and explain.
That's really awesome. So she's coming to us with like sort of a different background, a different perspective on sort of the STEM fields, and focuses more on sort of the environmental science and policy related to some of those areas around basically like the STEM fields, but also just like environment in general. And is it true you also just recently published in the research journal Water? Is that correct?
Yes, I did. This is my first research paper, which I feel really proud to have published something while in undergrad. I worked with my research advisor, Dr. Pashota at Chapman, and the article was kind of based on California's droughts through the year 2100. And we took 11 of California's major rivers and looked at historical values versus projected values dependent on different climatic conditions, and used those projections and compared them with historical values to see where there may be drought or flooding depending on how Earth's climate actually behaves.
Wow, that's really interesting and such an important topic these days, especially for California, because you guys are really in a drought. So,
oh yeah, it's constant.
Yeah. What a cool project. So that was an undergraduate project that you did. Is that right, or was that a graduate project? Undergrad. Cool. Yeah. Wow, what a fantastic project to be part of as an undergrad.
Thank you.
And then also to be published as an undergrad. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I feel so fortunate that we were able to get everything done like right before I graduated.
Yeah, that helps a lot. I know it's not always easy to get all your stuff done before you graduate, and then it makes it much harder once you graduate to have the motivation to continue doing the things that you did while you were a student. So good job.
Thank you.
And it sounds like you're currently waiting to hear back from some law schools.
Yes. Yeah, so I definitely want to go the policy route. I don't necessarily want to be an attorney, but I do want to go through law school to have a better understanding of how law and policy are applied and developed. So yeah, I'm waiting to hear back from law schools and biting my nails, trying to make my final decision. So I'll be joining L1 this fall, but I'm also open to beginning professional work if, the right opportunity comes up. But either way, I want to specialize in the intersection of environmental science and economics through analysis of data and, application through policy.
That's super cool. And that's really important work that you're doing. A lot of people that we interview, well, I guess we have a whole host of people that we interview on here, ranging from anywhere from research to policy to climate resilience to all sorts of different sectors. But every bit of it is as important as the other sectors. So it's really cool to get all these different sort of backgrounds and perspectives on approaching sort of the sciences and the STEM fields in general. So we're really happy to be talking to you because you just are going to bring an awesome perspective into our field.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah.
And now,
what makes you you?
So, Lauren, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are? We like to know what makes you you as a person.
So I think personally, I always try to live life to the fullest. I try not to spend any day just, sitting and vegging on the couch. Of course, there are days when that's necessary, but I try to, make something of each day. And I also try to allow myself to be exactly who I am. I feel like there's so much external pressure to be a certain person, to perform, to act a certain way, to look a certain way, especially in California. But I've worked really hard on, just letting myself be. And I feel like it usually works out better. So that's great. And then career-wise, I am just so passionate about my mission. I believe that I'm capable of really, really great things. And I'm trying to, live up to the motivation and passion that I hold for my field.
That's great. Yeah, that's an inspirational thing and admirable that you have so much passion for the things that you're doing. It's so important. And Brian and I have talked about this with other people on previous episodes, but when you have that passion and you have that drive and you have the ambition to do these things, it makes sort of the coursework and the schoolwork, all the tedious stuff that you have to go through, like much more tolerable maybe, or a little bit easier because you're just so passionate about it that it's easy to apply the things that you're learning to the fields that you're studying. So
It does not work anymore. It's just, interesting. You feel good about doing it.
Yeah, that's great. So how did you get interested in your field of study? Or the work that you want to do? How did you get interested in that?
So it's kind of a funny story. In high school, I was in a class called IB Biology, which is the International Baccalaureate program. Kind of like AP, but a little bit different. So I tried hard in high school, but not up to my potential. And, I would study for tests, but didn't, take anything too seriously. And within the IB biology class, we had a ecology unit, and I didn't study for the test at all, but I got the highest score I've ever gotten on a test in that class. So, which to me meant the information really sunk in. I actually really cared about it, and I maybe have a talent for it. So I decided to apply to one school with environmental policy or science as my major. And that ended up being Chapman. And of the schools that I got into, I was like, okay, well, Chapman's my favorite. I can't not go there. So I was like, okay, I'll give the environmental stuff a try. And I absolutely loved it. I was so interested in every single class. And I noticed that I was the one that was always paying attention when other people, were texting on their computer or, spacing out. I was so focused in on the material and I loved it. So I stayed.
That's great. Yeah. I feel like I have a very similar story with geology, in that I took a class for my first degree in geology and did the best on an exam I got 100% on my exam. So
wow.
I thought okay, I kind of like this. And then when I went back to school, I was really passionate about it. Brian, do you have a story like that with physics or?
I mean, I tend to never study, or I used to tend to never study, and I think I was just a very good test taker, which is actually kind of a bad thing, I think, in hindsight, because it caused me to not dig into things that I probably should have at a younger age. But I kind of settled on physics a long time ago and just stuck with it and moved around in different places. So I guess maybe it's a little different for me, but I could relate to just the tests that I would take that I would get really high marks on that I wouldn't study for. I'd be like, yeah, I'm pretty good at this. I could probably keep doing this, something like that.
At what point did you know that you wanted to do physics primarily?
when it was probably like sophomore, junior year of high school when I decided like doing these physics problems was so much fun that I would just like sit in my room, like solve all the different kinematic problems that they had in the book. Like they were just like puzzles to me. And
That's awesome.
It's just awesome that you could like predict exactly where something was going to land or the velocity that it would have or the time that it would take for it to travel somewhere. Just by like using the numbers, you could basically tell the future. So that I think started it for me. And then it just grows from there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. First of all, I hate that you're one of those people that can take exams and not study for them. And second of all, Brian, you're awesome. I love you just like sort of fell into this sort of sector. Physics. That's great. So Lauren, I realized that you just graduated from your undergrad at Chapman, but is there any sort of research you're working on at the moment?
No, I'm between projects, honestly, between everything right now. I'm just trying to make my final decision on law school. Again, I'm still open to any jobs that are a good fit, but I'm just kind of trying to figure out my path right now.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I think you're young enough and you've definitely got some time to figure that out. Like you have the direction, you just need the platform to help you get there. So
right. Well, and especially after doing all that school within 3.5 years, I'm a little bit burnt out. So it's nice to just have some time to focus on personal stuff, and really feel good within myself, and then embark on the next adventure.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I think it's important for us to remind ourselves that, we spend a lot of time around a lot of people who are successful or who are really ambitious or who are really driven. And sometimes it feels like you always have to have the next step figured out in your career or your school. But I think it's an important thing that you just brought up, in that like sometimes it's okay to take a step back and to sort of just take a breath and figure out what it is that you want to do next, and not rush into like just the next thing.
And you're in this weird stage where like, you've been doing undergrad for 3.5-4 years, but you've also just been doing school your entire life. So it's like the first time that you maybe won't be doing school anymore. It's like a super weird point in time, I feel like.
Yeah, it's really, really weird. I'm like, what do I do with myself all day?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find fun stuff to do, but it's definitely good to have a breather.
Yeah, absolutely.
And things will fall into place for you for sure. Like once you find out what it is you really want to do or where you want to go, like things will just start falling into place. So enjoy the time off while you can.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit like what is the best or most fun thing about what you did as an undergrad, or what you want to do as a policymaker?
So I've always had an interest in philosophy. I actually, wanted to major in philosophy at one point. Then I figured, well, I don't know what I would do with that. But doing environmental work is almost like working in philosophy in itself, because the work we're doing in order to enact policies that will, be actually beneficial to the public, we kind of need a paradigm shift, kind of a shift in environmental consciousness. And I feel like that is almost like studying and practicing philosophy in itself. So, it's so cool to have research and data to support ideas and theories, moving forward to have a more sustainable world. It's an interesting connection between the two.
So do you think that shift that needs to happen on a global level and
Completely.
like across all disciplines, across all people? Do you believe that that's starting to happen at this point?
100%. I went to a conference recently, and I forget which countries it was. I don't want to say one and be wrong, but they're actually taking philosophy and I guess you could call it policy, from indigenous communities.
Hmm.
And so giving rivers, giving mountains a personality, I guess, and treating them like an entity rather than a resource within their policy. So, I mean, it's kind of crazy because everything is interconnected. You know, maybe the river's not actually alive, but if you treat it like it is, people are going to, you know, respect it and not just take all the resources they can from it.
Yeah, that's such a like spiritual mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in today's world, people are not very spiritual. You're just like pumping through the things that need to get done and don't think about things like that at all. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I could totally see how that would make your relationship between your resources different if you saw them as things like that.
Right. And I know Germany is having better environmental policy, and there are other countries, but I don't want to, you know, again, name them and then be wrong. But Europe is on the right track. So US next.
Yeah, definitely. That's such a cool take on it. I love the philosophy approach to sort of these problems and the sort of crises, if you will, that we're in at the moment. And I just want to ask, Lauren, do you or have you read a lot of Emerson or Thoreau or a lot of the philosophers that talk a lot about nature?
I have. I took an environmental ethics course, and it was really just a philosophy course. It was awesome. I loved every second of it. And it is really interesting to see the different ideals that different philosophers have suggested or practiced, and kind of compare that to, you know, how people really behaved at that time coming into the US, you know, treating the indigenous the way they did, treating the land the way they did, and kind of comparing that with like what other philosophers were saying at that time. I don't know. It's an interesting contrast.
Yeah, it's interesting to see their approaches to it. Do you have a favorite philosopher that you've read?
I don't.
They're all pretty cool.
They're all cool. And it's like, I don't necessarily choose one over the other. I don't believe one more than another. I think some are a bit extreme and some are too safe. So I think we need like a happy medium that's can be practiced within our current society. Because everything is very based on economics and finance, and it has to be, because that is how the world has developed. And I think basing things on just philosophy is where we're going to kind of get into more social issues. So we do need to keep an element of finance and econ and everything in the back of our heads, just because we're not going to get everyone on board unless we see it is profitable, which is terrible to say, but it's true.
Very true. I think, yeah, a lot of environmental issues work that way. Definitely. You've got to get people on board with an incentive almost to get them to appreciate, you know, just something that maybe some people just think it should become so natural, but yeah, sadly, it's the world we live in. So
yeah, but it's a challenge. It's another puzzle to solve, to frame it in.
That's right. Yeah. You won't be out of a job, Lauren. That's for sure.
Thank you. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. If you could describe your work using an analogy, what would it be?
Okay, so we all know that medical doctors work to heal a body, but I want to be an environmental doctor to heal a planet or an ecosystem.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. It's actually really funny because the last person we interviewed, Mac, he also sort of made it analogous to being a doctor. He's a hydrologist. So something about you water people, you really...
Something's in the water.
Yeah. Water is important. No, that's great. That's a really great analogy. I love that analogy. I think it's so applicable to so many people who work in these fields and really are trying to conserve or preserve a lot of the environment that we have already, which is a difficult task. And just like a medical doctor has a difficult task of diagnosing and treating a patient, you certainly have a difficult task of, diagnosing and treating, these current climate and environmental issues. So yeah, super cool. Okay, so I'm going to get into sort of this little segment, and it's a very serious question that I'm going to be asking you.
Serious question.
We normally ask our guests how they would solve a scientific problem on some sort of celestial body or somewhere out in the universe. And so the scientific problem I'm going to give you is, how would you solve something if you were on Pluto?
Okay, so if I was on Pluto, I would figure out how to stabilize Pluto's orbit so it could be part of the solar system again, and they could never kick Pluto or our satellite Sharon out of the crew ever again.
You go, girl. I know. It's like he just got kicked out all of a sudden. He's just out there.
What the heck?
Doing his own thing.
Tricky. That'd be really tricky to do, though, I think. I know.
Yeah, from the physicist, it would be.
Yeah, yeah, Brian, how would you solve that problem?
You'd have to apply some sort of force to Pluto to change its orbit. I'd assume if you want to bring it closer. Well, the thing that's interesting is like the way that the Earth and the moon orbit each other, the center of mass between the two lies within the Earth. So really, the moon just orbits around the Earth. But Pluto has these smaller satellite moons, which are more comparable to its size. So they actually orbit each other. So the center of mass between the two bodies doesn't lie within one or the other. So they don't actually, one doesn't orbit the other, but they orbit a central spot in between the two of them, which is like a harder thing to even deal with. I'd assume. I'm not a planetary person, but yeah.
Maybe we could have like jets attached somehow.
Yeah.
That would give it like a spin, so you could have like nighttime and daytime, but then would also kind of lead it around the sun in a circular orbit.
Yeah, it would take a long time to get the jets even out there to Pluto, and then communicating.
Well, if you're on Pluto.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you're already there, I guess that all that's out of the question. So if you have the necessary supplies, I think it's probably doable if you have everything you need.
I'm going to start rallying that Pluto comes back into orbit. Stand outside with signs.
Stand outside the White House with a big Pluto poster. We want Pluto.
Yeah, that's always a fun question. So great answer too. We love it. Okay, as part of our interviews, we like to do this other segment where we ask our guests to sort of describe your research to 3 different sets of people. So you have said that you've presented at some conferences before, and can you just tell us which conferences you've actually been at before?
Yes. So I went to one conference, which was the American Geophysical Union. Mm-hmm. That was in New Orleans. Great time, super fun. I love the food there. Oh my gosh. I was dying at every meal. It's so good. But then I've also presented multiple times at Chapman. Yeah. Great.
Okay. Well, AGU is a big deal. There's a lot of people there. So if you have to present, even if you just do a poster there, you're definitely presenting to a wide range of audiences. So
I want to second that food comment though, because I had the best chicken sandwich that I've ever had in my life in New Orleans. So
yeah,
definitely.
I tried gumbo for the first time, and I think about it every day. I want to go back.
See, I had some of these alligator meatballs, which actually I wasn't that much of a fan of. They were like kind of too like gamey for me, but other people liked them a lot. So there's a variety there. But
I like alligator. It's pretty good. I wouldn't like go for it all the time, but it was good to try it.
Yeah, it was definitely good to try it.
I like how as scientists, you guys just went out on a limb trying all the food.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, every time that I have the opportunity to travel to a new spot, that's like one of my main goals is to just try the foods that are there. Like when we went to Italy, I was able to have like a chicken fried horse steak and like horse balls and stuff, like horse meatballs, things like that. So I don't know. I always try to try the food in the new areas.
Yeah.
It's a good perk to being a scientist.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could eat horse, honestly.
Yeah, I know it's controversial to some people, but it was really good. I liked it.
Well, they're so strong. I feel like their meat's probably real, maybe a little chewy. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. You'd assume that, but it wasn't as bad. The alligator is way more chewy than horse.
True.
In my head.
Oh yeah. Anyway, I love this. I love these conversations. So besides having a really great variety of food, you've been at a pretty prestigious conference and present at your school, which is awesome. And so we like to sort of put you on the spot because you've had some practice with this. So we're going to ask you about 3 different sets of people, how you would describe your research. So the first group would be to an elementary class, like a 4th or 5th grade class.
5th grader.
Okay. So if I were to describe my research to, what is that, like 9 and 10-year-olds ish, I would say that I was watching water levels of rivers to guesstimate future droughts in California.
Yeah.
That's simple.
Yeah, we like it. The next group would be maybe an undergraduate or maybe some sort of younger person or like a high school student who knows a little bit about your area, but is sort of outside your area of expertise, so they don't know a whole lot.
Undergrad.
Okay, I would say that my research was examining water levels of California's rivers to project future water flow dependent on environmental climatic conditions.
Nice. And then the last one is if you were at AGU and you had a professional in environmental science or in hydrology come up to you, how would you present your research to them?
Expert.
I would say that future stream flow in California is evaluated based on 8 climate projection models, and I examined its effects on water availability.
Sweet.
Nice. Yeah, those are awesome. Those are like the most concise answers we've ever gotten, and they were they were perfect. So
thank you.
You're good at this.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Lauren, I'm really interested in knowing what some of these environmental climatic conditions are that these models are based off of. Can you just explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it gets a little technical. It's based on what's called an RCP level, which is basically emissions being pumped into the air. So my research is at 2 different RCP levels, which is 4.5. And that's kind of like an intermediate where we are now type of level, and 8.5, which is, getting worse with time from where we are now. And so at those 2 different RCP levels, we have subsections within that. So depending on how Earth's climate reacts to these added emissions, we'll have, basically one of 4 options. Either the environment will become cooler and wetter, warmer and drier, say, kind of average, or one model that's most unlike the other based on previous research that's been done, that's just called other. So one most unlike the other 3. So we have those 4: warm, dry, cool, wet, average, and other within RCP 4.5 and 8.5. So depending on what the Earth's climate actually looks like, whether it's really hot and dry at the higher emission level or cooler and wetter at the, standard, which, where we are now, 4.5 emission level, we can look at the research that I've done to see the projections of drought based on the reality of the climate and kind of have an idea of what to expect moving forward as far as water availability.
That's interesting. And so that's specific to maybe California or the Southwest United States, whether it's hot and dry or like wetter and cooler, right? Or is that a global effect?
It's hard to say. It's really hard to predict what the Earth is going to do. Typically, one would assume that it's going to be hotter and drier overall because that's what we've seen so far. And as far as temperature regulation with, energy coming in, getting trapped and energy coming out within the atmosphere, you would assume that it would get hotter and therefore drier. But there could also be changes that we don't expect. Like we've seen more intense storms. So that could, play into it. It's hard to predict. We just kind of have to see how it goes. But you're right, it could be regional, the effects, or it could be global. I couldn't say.
Right. And it's not that they're exclusive of each other either. It's that both of those things could be happening simultaneously. In some areas, you might get wetter and cooler, and in other areas, you get drier and hotter. So is that, that could also
that sounds right. Yeah.
That seems to be what's happening in some areas. So cool. Well, that's a great explanation. Thank you so much for that. You're doing some amazing work, and we're so excited to see some of the work that you're going to be doing in the future after you go to law school and get to go through that fun journey.
I'm a little nervous, but it'll be good.
You're going to do awesome. We're going to see great things from you, Lauren.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask you a couple more serious questions, just to sort of wrap up our interview here.
Serious question.
So my first serious question is, what's your spirit animal?
Ooh, okay. I love this question. I've been asked this before, actually, and I feel like I'd have to say a lion. I don't know, because they're confident and they're like a force. Like you don't mess with the lion. And I feel like in my career, like no one's gonna want to mess, with what I'm doing. But they're also very graceful and very sweet and very loving. So there's kind of two sides to it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
I can picture that for sure. You go get them, girl. You just like go out there and dominate. And then
Thank you.
But you also seem like you have this very loving and sweet side to you as well. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
And my last question is if you were a new addition to a crayon box, what color would you be and why?
Oh my gosh.
Or if
I feel like I have so many answers.
Yeah. If you could just pick one color in a crayon box, what would you be if it already exists?
I don't know. What would you be?
Oh no. We have people putting these questions back on us. I feel like I would be a very bright color. Like I would be like some sort of like hot pink or like bright yellow color, because I just feel like the world could just use more brightness in it. And that's such a very idealistic, like very lovable sort of answer. But what would you be, Brian?
Yeah, I remember growing up and there was a color called mac and cheese. And this is going back to food, I guess. But let's see, if I was to pick, like, I'm pretty hungry right now. So maybe like a ramen broth colored thing. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of spice. So it's a little bit red, but somewhat brown, something like that. Yeah.
I could see both of those. Definitely, Ashley, I could see like a bright yellow for you. I feel like you have a very sunny disposition. And Brian, I feel like we've talked a lot about food, so definitely mac and cheese or ramen broth. Like,
Yeah.
And the spicy color. So
yeah,
being spicy.
add a little bit of spice.
Some sriracha.
Yeah.
My color would be sriracha ramen. That's what my color would be.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Like a auburn kind of.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I think I would be. The first color that popped into my head was blue, so I'm gonna stick with it. But like a kind of like aquamarine type of blue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a reason. I just feel like that would like encapture me. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Nothing
feel
too dark.
yeah,
And
aquamarine is like it kind of related to water, and
perfect.
you know, like I think when people think of like really beautiful places that they want to go to, they think of like those oceans that are like very sea green or aquamarine and bright and colorful. So
Okay, I got it. I got the connection. The aquamarine, people associate that with places that they want to go to. And I'm going to make a future that everyone wants to be part of that's environmentally conscious and gonna, stop all the pollution and all that, or some of it.
nailed
So
it.
what would the name of the color be like in the actual crayon box?
Oh,
Like environmental aquamarine or something like that?
Maybe like idealistic blue.
Nice. I like that.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that'd be awesome. I was trying to think of a name for mine. And the first thing that popped into my head was armadillo yellow, because I don't know why, but like, so I have this thing with like armadillos and aardvarks. I don't know, maybe aardvark yellow, because like when I was younger, when I was really little, my dad used to say the word aardvark, and it used to always make me laugh. So
it's a funny word.
Yeah, it is, right? Still makes me laugh.
Have you ever seen an aardvark in person?
No, I have not.
I haven't either.
I have no idea what it looks like.
I'm assuming it's like that's the one with the shell, right? It's like an anteater, but with the shell on the outside of it.
Yeah, I was picturing anteater a little bit, so that sounds right.
It doesn't have a shell. It's like I don't know. It looks more like a rodent. The armadillo is the one with the shell.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
But it's like I guess it's not a rodent. Well, it's a mammal. It like burrows basically, but it kind of looks like it's like a cross between an anteater and an armadillo. Like, I don't know. Like if he's mated, like that's what they would produce, I guess. I'm not sure. Is it
like smaller or bigger?
It's like a bigger, I don't know, type of mammal. Not like huge. Like it's more like, I don't know, maybe small dog size.
Oh, okay.
So
reasonable.
Yeah, not like huge, but weird and funny. So
that's great. So we have aardvark yellow, sriracha ramen, or sriracha ramen broth or sriracha ramen.
I can't remember. Sriracha ramen's fine.
Okay. Yeah. And then idealistic blue.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think these are great.
By the way, not sponsored by Crayola.
Yeah.
But if this sounds good to you guys, you can put this in your crayon box. We'll take royalties for that. But.
Yeah. Oh, well, Lauren, this has been such a fun interview. We're so happy that you could join us and tell us all about the research and the awesome stuff that you're doing. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. This is a really great opportunity, and I enjoyed talking with you guys for a bit.
You did awesome. Before we go, is there anyone you'd like to give any shout outs to?
Yeah, actually, Dr. Piper, my research advisor, I would be completely confused and lost in the research if it weren't for him. So thank you for guiding me through it. And Mom and Dad, thank you for putting me through college. I would have never had opportunities like this if it weren't for Chapman. So yeah, I'm really grateful for the people that have supported me through everything and will hold them with me as I go forward.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure they just love you as a person and know that, like we do know, that you're going to just do amazing, amazing things. So
thank you.
Yeah.
It makes me feel really good to hear that.
Well, thanks again, Lauren. And yeah, we hope to see you again someday and hear about all the amazing environmental stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, let me know. I'm definitely open to it.
Great.
Awesome. See you later.
Bye, guys.
Well, that was an epic conversation.
We'd like to thank all of our listeners.
Tune in next time for another Epic Earth podcast.
Can we start that over?
Yeah. Yeah.
California's start that over. Imagine I just like said completely the wrong thing and someone looks at my research and is like,